Does Bandit's talent mean that an 8-rack style discard deck can actually work in Bloomburrow Standard? That's what we're going to find out today. So here is our standard 8-rack deck, and I am super hyped for this one because I love discard decks, and discard decks are pretty much never good in standard, but I think thanks to Bloomburrow, we might actually finally have a good one. So let's talk about our standard 8-rack discard deck, jump into some games, see it in action. So why are we building 8-rack in standard? And that is because Wizards gave us the perfect payoff in Bandit's talent. So Bandit's talent is literally everything an 8-rack discard deck could want. So it's a 2-mana enchantment. When it enters, each opponent has to discard 2 cards unless they discard a non-land. I will say that is pretty much always target opponent discards a non-land card. I don't think I've ever seen anyone discard 2 cards to it, except I did once the first time I played against it by accident. But really, it's pretty much always a discard 1. But still, it's better than just a discard 1 because you're going to get a non-land card. So it's not like your opponent can just discard a useless land. And then level 2 for 1 more mana makes it so at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if they have 1 or fewer cards in hand, they lose 2 life. So that's the rack mode, where it punishes our opponent and closes out the game after we get our opponent close to empty-handed. And then the final mode is also really good. For 4 mana, at the beginning of our draw step, if our opponent has 1 or less cards in hand, we get to draw an extra card. So Bandit's talent is like a rack that also draws us cards and makes our opponent discard a card. So this is really the way that we win the game. The goal of our deck is to get our opponent empty-handed and then just let Bandit's talent grind our opponent out. Our second rack, and we don't technically quite have 8 racks, but our backup rack is Painful Quandary. And Painful Quandary is absolutely hilarious because normally it's a very bad card. It's a 5-mana enchantment that says when an opponent casts a spell, they lose 5 life unless they discard a card. So it's a Punisher card. It's one of those cards where our opponent gets to make the choice. So if our opponent has a high life total, they take the damage. If they have lots of cards in hand, they can discard a card. But the trick of Painful Quandary in our deck is Painful Quandary is absurd once we empty our opponent's hand. Once we empty our opponent's hand, it almost becomes a lock piece where our opponent has 0 cards in hand. They draw a card. They don't really have a choice. If they want to play that, they're going to take 5, which is a huge amount of damage, especially on top of Bandit's talent. But if they don't do that, they just kind of skip their turn and wait to build up cards, and we're probably going to make them discard the cards they try to hold on to anyway. So all this to say, even though Painful Quandary is normally bad, in a dedicated 8-rack style discard deck, it's actually super powerful finisher. Then we have our discard. So we have Hopeless Nightmare, makes our opponent discard, burns them for 2 damage. Cruel Claw's Heist makes our opponent discard, and if our opponent has no cards in hand, we can do the gift mode to maybe steal the card and cast it. Hostile Investigator makes our opponent discard, makes clues as our opponent discards, so it gives us more card advantage. And then Liliana and Rankle's Prank, these are more discard cards, but they also work as removal. Liliana can make our opponent sack or discard. Rankle's Prank can make our opponent sack or discard or lose a bunch of life. And often we're choosing all the modes on this card. Like, we can afford to take some damage. We don't really have creatures. Hostile Investigator, the only creature in our deck, so it's not really hurting us to do the double edict mode. Plus, it's a good way to empty our opponent's hand. Then we just have some removal to deal with our opponent's threats. Cut down, go for the throat, deadly cover up, because really we just want to like survive the early game, make our opponent discard a bunch of cards, and then once our opponent gets empty-handed, our deck becomes supercharged and pretty much is going to be super hard for our opponent to keep up with. Mana base, pretty simple, a bunch of swamps, 4 Mishra's Foundries, which is kind of like a legacy Pox trick. If you ever look at like the legacy discard decks, a lot of times one of their main win cons is like beating down with Mishra's Factory, so we can kind of do the same standard version of that with Mishra's Foundry. Fountain Port, just for value, can make blockers, can make treasures, can draw us cards, and that is standard 8-rack. That's our deck for today. So let's jump into some games and see if discard is back in standard for the first time in a long time, thanks to Bloomburrow. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. It is new standard time. We're playing some standard 8-rack, essentially. Mono black discard. I don't know. I'm calling it 8-rack because I consider discard decks 8-rack, and it's kind of 8-racky, although we really only have Bandit's talent, and then I guess Painful Quandary is our second rack, sort of, but whatever. We're making our opponents discard all their cards. Hopeless Nightmare. Make you discard. Opponent Vein Ripper. Oh, this might be a Jackdaw deck. I remember seeing a Jackdaw list someone posted. Well, that's Bandit's talent. Make you discard. Bark down. All right, definitely a Jackdaw list, I think. Airlift Chaplain. Opponent's gonna mill some cards. So Bandit's Talent, that's our key payoff. We do need to level it up at some point. And then we need to get our opponent to 1 or less cards in hand, which is kind of the whole point of our deck. So opponent gets back a Snarling Gorehound. What do we do here? So we like Cruel Claw's Heist plus level up Bandit's Talent. We Lily and tick somewhere. I don't know if we tick down or tick up. Kind of want to just tick up. I think we can tick up and probably just discard Painful Quandary for now. I think we want to hold on to the Wrath. The Cruel Claw's Heist is discard. Once we get our opponent short on cards, we can also finish leveling up our class, and then we get to draw extra cards each turn. Wow, another Vein Ripper. Opponent is all in on the Vein Rippers. They might actually want cards in their graveyard. If you're playing Snarling Gorehound, you're probably a great... Oh, and another Bart. All right. Well, bad news is opponent's got kind of a big board. Good news is Scavenger's Talent. All right. Good news is we do have a Wrath once we get one more land. Opponent hits Lily. Well, play the Swamp. I think we just need to finish leveling up Bandits, or we need to start leveling up Bandit's Talent. We can't actually get to the last mode. 4 mana is kind of a lot. But we might as well. So opponent's going to start taking 2 a turn. Take down the Lily. They probably just sack the Gorehound, I guess? Maybe they sack the Chaplain. All right, they sack the Gorehound. Trigger the Scavenger's Talent. So get a food. And then, are we going to do the... Let's do the thing. Let's Thought Seize the top of the deck. Cruel Claw's Heist. Gift you a card. Hopefully it's not a land. If it's a land, it makes things a lot worse. It is... Okay, Scavenger's Talent. That's fine. We'll play it. Our deck is not really built to be a Scavenger's Talent deck, but hey, we did it. We officially Thought Seize the top card of our opponent's deck, and we even got to play it. Not bad for 2 mana. Opponent. Land. It is a little risky in this deck just because we care so much about our opponent having literally 1 or 0 cards in hand. So if we do hit a land and they get to keep it, normally that wouldn't really matter much, but it matters a lot to this deck. Bandit gonna kill the Lily. So they have a fully levered up Scavenger's class, so now they can...
When they hit back.
I guess they can reanimate something here. They might just go for a Vein Ripper. Since they just killed the Lily, yeah, sack, sack, sack. Get back a Vein Ripper. I mean, we have the Deadly Cover-Up, so we're not going to die. Opponent's going to mill a bunch of cards. Going to keep milling themselves, I guess. Sure. So, mill 6. Ooh. Second Lily is actually kind of spectacular here. Now we can hold on to the Deadly Cover-Up and get rid of... the Vein Ripper. Well, and it's gone forever because... Finality counter. Opponent's gonna start milling us now, which I guess makes sense. Well, we will level up our Scavenger's Talent. Take that, opponent. Scavenger's Talent Mill Wars. Opponent, take 2 from the... We're a talent deck. Most talented deck we've ever played. Double talent. Opponent. Bart. Again, not very good on an empty board, but they could stack the Scavenger's Talent to reanimate. Well, that's fine. We will finish leveling up Bandit's Talent. So now we get to draw a card as well. Once you fully level up Bandit's Talent, it's so good because it's going to give us extra cards to like fuel the Lily, to fight through drawing dead discard spells. The fact that it turns into like a Phyrexian Arena too is actually really powerful. It is 4 mana to get to it, but I think that Bandit's Talent's actually very, very, very good. All right, well, here we go, opponent. Take 2, down to 12. We're racking them very slowly, racking away their life. Found it. Ooh, Lupin Flower Village. Well, I mean, that is maybe a redraw. Sacks it. I assume they keep milling us at this point. Oh, Hostile Investigator. I guess Hostile Investigator's not even that good with our opponent empty-handed. Wow, they whiffed. Oh, opponent gets in, kills the Lily. Sure.
Knew this was a waste of time.
And passes. Well, we get to draw an extra card because our opponent's empty-handed. I mean, we're at 18. Our opponent's only got a 2-1. I think we just do more Bandit's Talent things, level it up, and then play a land, and then level it up, and now our opponent's taking 4 a turn, down to 8. Maybe the rack can actually work in Standard. I know a lot of people hate discard decks. I actually think discard decks are cool because they're usually like, we rarely have a discard deck that's good. But I think maybe, because of Bandit's Talent, maybe we can actually make it work in in Bloomburrow standard. Opponent passes. Opponent's also running a little clunky here. Well, we will draw 2 extra cards. Ooh, Rankle Spring. I mean, this doesn't literally win us the game because of the food, but everybody loses 4. Everyone sacks 2 creatures. Get rid of the Bart. Hit you down to 4. In theory, if our opponent forgets to crack the food, which they are currently remembering, but if they forgot to crack the food, it would be lethal. We're going to be, what, 1 point of damage short? We can Hopeless Nightmare for 2. So opponent goes to 7. The Scavenger's Talent is actually kind of good. We have a lot of sacrifice effects, so we were actually getting milled a lot by the Scavenger's Talent. Hopeless Nightmare hit you down to 5, which is kind of actually virtually 1 because of these Bandit's talents. All right, opponent, you need something good. You need something good or your life's about to end. Deep Cavern Bat. I think we need to not kill things, because if we kill things, our opponent gets food. And then they can sack the food to gain life. So I think we are better up not killing the bat. Opponent says GG. So they sack the food, they go to 4, right? Actually, yeah, let's kill the bat. Let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get it out of here. Bat down. I think this was actually unnecessary. but we have so much removal in hand. But yeah, that was actually probably unnecessary because now they get another food, so they get to gain even more life. Oh, I'm sorry, human token. Yeah, we can't not cast the Wrath, but we should have not cast the Wrath. That would have been smarter. All right. About it. And Airlift Javelin. I'm gonna do a little milling and grilling, and gets back a land, plays a Surveil land. Okay, so now we just have to do nothing. We just have to do nothing. No removal, no Wraths, no removal. We can't do it. Opponent says GG. Let's GG back. Let's do a little sacking. Haha. Surveil us, will ya? We'll keep the Fountain Port. Okay. So we just have to not cast our removal. That's it. That's all more removal. Oh, okay. We'll just pass. We'll just pass. No food for you. And death. And that went pretty well. We could have won a turn earlier if we didn't Wrath, but sweet. 8 rack. It might be back in standard. We are playing some new standard. We are doing some 8 racking, except we don't actually have 8 racks, but we do have Bandit's Talent, which is a really good rack, I think. It might actually be a really good one. We've never had a rack effect that also is a discard effect. That also turns into card draw. When you add it all together, seems decent. Opponent, probably playing Otters. Well, let's hopelessly nightmare you, which probably describes how most people feel against playing against discard. Why is discard so hated? About it. Otter gets in, hits us. Playing the Mishra's Factory, and I think Stormchase Mentor is probably gonna go just because of the cost reduction. Ooh, Stormcatcher's Talent. I will say I've seen a lot of these class enchantments around. There's been a lot of talents. The Otter one shows up a lot. The discard one we're playing right now, they might actually be pretty good. I've seen like the green one randomly in some decks. So I feel like the class enchantments this time might be stronger than last time. I feel like last time we got what, like Bard class, and then the rest of them, I don't know, maybe that's not true. We also had the one, oh, what was the mono green one that make the 2/2 wolf? That one saw a lot of play in standard. But in general, the class enchantments kind of fell flat last time. I think this round, maybe because they're monocolored, going to be better. Otterball Antics. Okay. Well, no land for us, unfortunately. So do we Cruel Claw's Heist because we get to pick the card? Do we Bandit's Talent so we can level it up? We're not going to trigger it yet anyway. Well, let's take up Lily. Discard a Cruel Claw's Heist.
We all have things we'd rather forget.
Actually, I guess we can trigger it, can't we? Bandit's Talent. Make you discard at least 1. Yeah, I think this is probably best. The other nice thing is Cruel Claw's Heist is a discard spell that's still kind of relevant once we're empty-handed, which is something that's not true of any of other discard spells. And let's level up Bandit's Talent. Pass turn. A shock to the face from the rack, down to 15. I don't know about Otterball Antics. I've seen a lot of Otter decks, a lot of people trying Otters. I think this is the first one where I've seen Utterball Antics. Monstrous Rage. All right, well, Lily down, but I think that's fine.
A delay.
We draw a
Nothing
land,
more.
which is also fine. So the question is, yeah, I think we're just going to level up. None of the discard effects do that much. Getting some extra card draw going does seem good. Opponent's down to 13. Does Bandit's talent just race? Ooh, Lightning Strike, okay. Does it just race the Otter? It might just race the Otter at this point. 13 to 13. Opponent takes 2. Ooh, go for the throw. That is good. Well, we will play a Swamp and Bandit's talent and level up the Bandit's talent. And then we can also kill the Otter. Now our opponent's taking 4 a turn, and they got 0 creatures on the battlefield, and we might be doing all right. Opponent down to 9. Better find something. Better find something. Storm Chaser's talent. I think our 2 talents at this point are better than our opponent's 2 talents. Lily and a Hopeless Nightmare. Well, Lily, kill Otter. Once you start drawing 2 cards a turn with the Bandit's talent, it's kind of, it feels like the game is over. It feels like it becomes hard to lose at that point. Hopeless Nightmare, make you discard. Actually, just hit you for 2 because you got no cards in hand, but close enough. Opponent's at 3. Opponent needs to deal with a Bandit's talent this turn, or get cards in hand, or they die. And cards in hand's not going to work because we have a Lily and Cruel Claw's Ice. Opponent passes. We draw an extra card. We draw an extra card. They're all swamps. We get the GG. We will just take up Lily, make sure that last card is gone, and then pass the turn. Let's Bandit's talent do its rack and work. And opponent, dead, dead, dead. Sweet. It is new standard time. We're playing some 8-rack, but in standard. Discard. Trying to find out if it's back. We have not had a real discard deck in standard in forever. Like literally, I don't think in my lifetime of playing standard. So we're talking quite a long time. Maybe I'm forgetting one. Am I forgetting one from like 15 years ago? I don't know. It's been a long time though. That's what I'm trying to say. Cruel's Ice. Get at ya. But I think maybe Bandit's talent brings it back. Ooh, opponent. It's got some spice. Dowerport Mage. Terror of the Peaks. Elish Norn. Another round. This might be bad for our opponent. Our opponent has a lot of 5-drops, and our deck is a lot of discard. Well, Hopeless Nightmare. If we can just hit another land to get to the Rankles prank, opponent pitches the mom. Hopeless Nightmare actually is a good card name for this deck because it kind of describes what it's like to play against an opponent. Draws a card. We did miss our land drop. I think rather than running things out, we're just going to crack the Hopeless Nightmare to see if we can hit a land for this turn. I think the one way I can easily see us losing is if we just start whiffing on lands. All right, there's a land. So there's land number 4. That gets us to the Rankles prank if we need it. Now we can Hopeless Nightmare. Make you discard. Down to 16. Ooh, Parting Gust. I feel like Parting Gust is kind of a sleeper. I feel like that card's actually really good in some decks. Like, if you're a deck that can take advantage of blinking your own creatures, I think it's actually a pretty good removal option. Bound it. Land. Passes. Well, we'll crack our Hopeless Nightmare. Do a little digging. Awkwardly, definitely putting, I think we put both to the bottom. We really needed land number 4, but now we really don't need land number 5. Land number 4 is just important because we have the Rankles pranks, and if our opponent starts getting down like Terror of the Peaks or whatever, we do want the option to be able to edict them away. Liliana. Well, yeah, that's, they could counter it. I guess that doesn't really matter though. Yeah, let's Liliana. Probably just discard.
No more distractions.
I feel like the cut down's not going to do much of anything.
Forget.
Opponent. Salvation Swan. Couldn't they have run that out? All right, Terror of the Peaks. Well, I guess we'll just edict that. Another round doesn't really do much if you can't keep creatures on the battlefield.
Haven't
And
you ever heard of
yeah, let's just do it. Rankles prank. Make you discard. Drain everyone. I think we just keep the second Rankles prank. Found it down to 2. I guess you could kind of argue that Rankles prank is a rack. Actually, actually it's not really anything like a rack, but Bandit's talent. Not a bad draw. That's what we were looking for. There's our clock. Now we can actually close out this game. That is only, so the upside of this deck is once our opponent's hand is stripped, it's really hard for them to do anything. The only downside might be we don't really close out the game that fast until we find a Bandit's now. It's a lot of like hit you for 2 each turn type stuff. Mount it. 10 passes. Well, let's finish leveling up this Bandit's talent, and I think we take up Lily. Make a discard. Hold on to the Rankle
tired of
Spring.
your
Opponent
secrets.
another round in the graveyard, down to 8. Well, the only question now is, land off the top. How long does our opponent actually stick it out? So we can, well, I guess we just burn with the prank, hit you to 4. Take up Lily, discard the land,
Drop
and
it.
hit you to 2. An opponent needs to answer Bandit's talent right now. Right now, or the game ends. Opponent, tap land, and all right, all we gotta do is pass the turn, play the land, pass the turn, and the Bandit's talent gonna finish it off, and that was actually pretty easy. Wow, discard might actually be good. It is, wow, Bandit talent Tron time. I mean, we're gonna keep this. Bandit's talent is the card we're built around. It is the most important card in our deck. Is it? Yes, it is. Well, this might actually be bad. If our opponent's aggro on the play, this hand doesn't have any removal until we get to Rankle's Prank. We might actually just die before we get to do anything. Opponent, Heartfire Hero. Here comes the Dorks and a Storm Chaser's talent. I actually think that generic prowess aggro like this might end up being better than a Otter prowess aggro. Like, Monastery Swifter is so good, Heartfire Hero's really good, Slickshot Show-Off's really good, so I almost wonder if this is where the prowess style decks end up, is something more like this. Monstrous Rage. Sure. We're so dead here. Opponent hits us to 8. Passes. We draw a land. Yeah. GG. Well, that was a quick one. It is standard 8-rag time. Ooh, Jim Davis. All right, Jim. Let's see what you're up to. This hand looks pretty good. We got no rack, no Bandit's talent, but we got a lot of discard and a Rankle's Prank for removal and some card draw. Seems fine. I mean, we'll find a rack eventually, hopefully, a Bandit's talent. I feel like calling this deck 8-rack it's close enough. I know, I don't know. I know there's not technically 8 racks, but I feel like it's almost like Panza, where, at least for me, how I think of 8-rack is it's kind of like Panza, where Panza originally meant something more specific, but then over the years, it's just kind of become a term for, like, it's a land destruction deck. You can call it Panza. I kind of think of 8-rack the same way, where if you're a deck that wins by getting your opponent down to like 0 cards in hand, and that's like, what is your win con? I feel like calling it 8-rack's kind of fine, even though we don't technically have a rack. But Bandit's talent, pretty close. Opponent leads on the Fabled Passage. Well, let's see what's going on over there, Jim. Take a little peek. Cruel Claws Heist. Not going to gift a card at this point. Just distress. It's got to be like a Iridescent Vine Lash land combo deck. So we can deal with non-creatures much worse than creatures because we have Rankle's Prank. I think we snipe the Splunking, and then next turn we can snipe the Pillage, and then in theory Rankle's Prank can clean up the Dorks, and then we figure out how to deal with the Luma eventually. Should be interesting. I am curious. I kind of want to see how Jim's deck plays, because I haven't got to play it yet, but I do have a build of like a land combo Reanimator style deck, and I'm curious how good it is. All right, just gonna run out that Analyst. Do a little milling. Sure. Get some lands in the graveyard. Play the land. So there's no way they can Analyst this turn, so we're safe to Cruel Claw Size. What we really want, and this probably isn't gonna happen, let's just take the Pillage the Bog. So we kind of are hoping our opponent draws an untapped land here and runs out the Freeze Strider Lookout, and then we just, oh, all right, it's a tap land. Then we could really get them. We make them sack the creatures and discard their hand. Go for the Throat's not bad. Do we just need to kill the Analyst? Yeah, I think there's enough lands in the graveyard. Do we? The graveyard is bugged right now, so it doesn't pop up. Let's just Hostile Investigator. Our opponent doesn't have an untapped land. They would have played it. Ooh. All right, still no untapped land. If our opponent doesn't have an untapped land, they can't Analyst anyway, and they're stuck going Freeze Strider Lookout, Desert, ping you, ramp, and then we just do the same thing we are going to do last turn of like absolutely blow you out with Rankle's Prank, and we get a clue out of the deal and a blocker. Well, I imagine, well, we'll see what our opponent takes. Might be Vine Lash to set up for combo shenanigans. Yeah. The Offspring mode actually is pretty good against... Oh, they're just going to discard it anyway. Okay, that's fine. The Offspring mode is nice against our Edict effects. That is true. All right, opponent. Play your Free Strider, look out. Oh, did they draw an untap land? See the looking at the analyst, which I guess means... Yeah, okay. Interesting. So now they're just going to analyst, get back a ton of lands. At least there's no splunking. That makes it slightly better, but... Wow, okay, just gonna pass. I mean, I guess they can do it at instant speed, so there's no reason to do it right now. Yeah, we can't actually stop this, can we? Well, attack with the hostile investigator. Opponent. Gonna do a little blocking, sure. And a little sacking, sure. Gonna get back quite a few lands. The problem is, so we can Rankle's Prank discard, but it doesn't get everything. We can Liliana discard. I think we just pass. We can use our Fountain Port. We can crack the clue. So at this point, I guess we're just waiting for our opponent to run out their stuff. So then hopefully we can get them all with Rankle Prank. The only issue is now there's a creature land. So we're going to have to deal with that too. All right, there's a Free Strider lookout. We know there's a crime land in hand. So the ramp be a coming. Yep. There's a crime land and pings us in ramps. And down to 16. Well, I think it's time for the bear, probably. And it's going to be big. I'm curious how good Luma is. So there's Luma. The land's going to be coming back. Mill some cards. It is also a 6-mana 13/13. Well, let's crack our clue, draw a card. I think this is fine though, just because Rankle's Prank is going to be so good. Oh, another hostile investigator. On second thought, maybe we just wait another turn. This gets us 2 clues, and we can always just go for the throat with the Luma. So we're not going to take any damage from it. Opponent's out of cards. I think we're in a pretty good spot. And we still have the Rankle's Prank for the future. We could use a rack, though. We would love to kill the creature land. That would be great. We will snap block with a investigator if we can get the creature land off the battlefield. All right, no, another creature land. Opponent gonna go attacking. And gets a crime land. Land damage is adding up. I wonder if there's Doppelgang in this deck. I feel like if I was building this deck, it would definitely have Doppelgang. Just for the, like, crime land kill. It's so easy once you get to this point of just like, oh, Doppelgang, copy a bunch of crime lands, make you die. Yeah, let's block and block. Get rid of the creature land. Jump the Luma, which thankfully doesn't have trample. So creature land 1 down. Our stuff was all going to die anyway to this Rankle's Prank. So crack the clue. Draw. Ooh, Deadly Cover Up. That is also good. I think we still just Rankle's Prank. So we can Rankle's Prank and then go for the throat. I think that's the best. Rankle's Prank away the board and then go for the throat away the creatures. No damage this time. We're kind of behind on the life race at the moment. Opponent. Gonna fire up the creature land. That is fine because we have to go for the throat. So we're gonna get rid of the creature land, which was part of our goal. And then we can just go for the throat. Get rid of the bear. I mean, we've kind of done it. We just need the rack to close out the game, but our opponent's empty-handed. We still got 3 cards. We got a Wrath left over. We got a Clue left over. We got a Mirror Board left over. Opponent's gonna gain a little bit of life. I am still worried that, like, they do have Pitiless Carnage in their deck. There are draws. Ooh, Painful Quandary is actually hilariously good here. Painful Quandary is so funny. It's thought of as a bad card, and it is normally a bad card, but in this deck, it's actually really good, I think, is our, like, secondary rack, because once you get your opponent empty-handed, it actually becomes a very strong card. Because your opponent, if they want to do anything, they're going to have to take 5, which is actually a lot of damage. So it can kind of just lock your opponent, like pseudo lock your opponent out of the game. So we could Deadly Cover Up to exile something. I don't know. The thing I'm most scared of is Pitiless Carnage, I think. Because you can Pitiless Carnage, float all your mana, try to draw into like a Luma or something, or an Analyst, and do the combo stuff. I think we just want to try to deal as much damage as possible. If we can get our opponent low enough on life, they're not going to be able to cast spells. All right, another crime land. That's fine. If we can get our opponent low enough, they won't be able to cast spells through this Painful Quandary. So I think that's the goal. Ooh, another Mishra's Foundry. Let's deal some damage. Try to shorten this game as much as possible, because sooner or later they will draw Pitiless Carnage, and that will probably kill us. Well, fire up the Foundry and play the Foundry and go to combat. Do a little attacking and do a little pumping. So we get in for 8. Hit our opponent down to 15. I mean, we really only need one more turn. Hopeless Nightmare hit you to 13. So next turn we attack and get our opponent low enough that they're going to have to wait another turn to cast a spell with Painful Quandary. I mean, you can't really cast a spell here, right? If you cast a spell, you take 5 and die. I guess you could cast a removal spell on Hostile Investigator, but that's about it. Like, otherwise, casting a spell actually just leads to death. Oh, but wow, passes. All right, well, I mean, yeah, just keep forcing through the damage. 1, 2, 3, Liliana. Get that last card out of hand. Make sure opponent doesn't have anything to discard to the Painful Quandary to get up.
There are shadows like me.
All right, go for the throat, take 5. That's fine. But I think that's just game now, right? That should just be game. So our opponent goes to 8. Our backup rack, Painful Quandary,
I'm tired of
actually coming through. So we play the land, fire up a Foundry. So we hit our opponent down to 4, which means our opponent literally can't cast a spell this turn, which means they're not going to be able to win this turn, which means they're going to die next turn. Because of the Painful Quandary, actually, is Painful Quandary a real card now? For the first time in its life, I think, it might actually be. Found it. Gonna go out on their own terms. Nissa, nothing to discard, and the Painful Quandary. Back up rack coming through. We might have actually found a deck where Painful Quandary's good. An opponent, yeah. Doing some standard racking, and ooh, we're gonna keep this. Double colorless lands, a little bit scary, That could go wrong. My love of Fountain Port. We'll draw a Swamp, right? Opponent on a Rakdos, mills a Caustic Bronco. Well, Hopeless Nightmare, yeah. Another Caustic Bronco down. And wow, all right, opponent, all the Broncos on the top of the deck. Well, I think we just gotta cut down, get that Bronco out of here. Play the Mishra's Foundry. All right, so we just need a black source to play this. Ooh, no, Fountain Port. Well, Hopeless Nightmare, but that's a Cruel Claw that's about to pop off. Oh, if we had a black source, it would have been perfect. We would have just Liliana the Cruel Claw in one. We might actually lose because of Fountain Port. My beloved Fountain Port. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. I swear, opponent. Cruel Claw hits us. What did they find? How does this work? So I'm actually not sure how Spree works with Cruel Claw. So you had to play it by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. So I imagine it's probably like Kicker, so you're gonna get the 1 for free, but then if you want to like draw cards or tutor or whatever, you're gonna have to pay the mana for that. It's either that or you can't cast it at all. Okay, it looks like, yeah, so it works kind of like Kicker. So you get the 1 mana cost for free, and then you got to pay for the extras. All right, so opponent's gonna draw a bunch of cards, which is actually really awkward since our goal is to get our opponent out of cards. Yeah, not great. Down to 13. Black mana. Well, the good news is we're gonna get to see Cruel Claw pop off a little bit. Oh, this is so painful with these 2 lilies in hand that are such a clean answer to this. Opponent gets in. Cruel Claw. We can't stop it. I mean, we can sack a Hopeless Nightmare to scry for a black source, so we should be able to get out of this eventually. Opponent. Cruel Claw finds a Deep Cavern Bat. Gonna cast it. I mean, that's fine. That could be worse for us. Discards a cut down. Gets the bat. I mean, we can't cast any of these cards anyway, so. So what do we care, Bat? Do your worst. Fountain Port. Don't let this take your image on Fountain Port. It's busted. It's busted, I swear. It's so good. Don't let it ruin Fountain Port for you. Oh, there's an argument to us just not keeping this hand, I guess, with 2. Or I guess it's also been several turns that we just haven't found the black source, so probably a little bit of bad luck too. We have 6 colorless lands. We have the 4 Foundries, 2 Fountain Ports. So we have 18 swamps in 6 colorless sources. So I haven't pulled out the calculator, but I think probably a little unlucky that we've only got 1 so far. But we also, Caustic Bronco too. So much card draw. Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Between like the Avarice and the Bronco, our opponent's pretty good at refueling. Well, there's a swamp. Gonna have to put the Bandit's talent to the bottom. We really just need. So now our game plan is we need to hit another land. so we can cast a Devious Cover-Up. Ooh. Let's see if we can high roll here. Our opponent could very well have removal in hand because we haven't played a creature. So let's gift a card. Cruel Claw sized. All right, go for the throw. Oh, the reign of Cruel Claw has finally come to an end. I will say Cruel Claw's Heist, killing Cruel Claw, kind of a odd flavor play, but Cruel Claw's Heist has actually felt really good. It's felt a lot, I mean, it's felt even better than I expected. Like, this is a good example of the power of the card. Just making our opponent discard here is pretty medium, but being able to use it to steal a Go for the Throat that we thought was likely in hand because we haven't put any targets for removal on the battlefield, to be able to kill the Cruel Claw, that's actually very powerful. Very, like, no other Thoughtseize is going to be able to do that. Well, kill the Cruel Claw. Get it out of here. Opponent still gets a Bronco trigger, draws a land. Yeah, opponent having 5 cards in hand is not good when you're a discard deck on turn whatever we're at. Oh, this Devious Cover-Up could do some work. Just resetting the board, getting back to Liliana. Oh, opponent land. Kind of unfortunate we got stuck for so many turns without the black man. I think we'd be very far ahead if it wasn't for that. As it is, it's going to be close. It's going to be super close. Bandit's Talent. Didn't we just cry you to the bottom? I mean, we don't mind Bandit's Talent. We don't really need it right now, though. We kind of just wanted to land. I guess we would rather Wrath once this Flesh Scourger comes down, given the choice. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have a removal spell. We really need this Bronco to chill with the card draw. Although, I don't, Bronco Flesh Scourger, that's a risky dinosaur. Oh god, are we about to get Carnosaured? That's a little frightening. They had the mana to cast it anyway, but now we know. Now we know that dinosaurs are a thing that our opponent presumably has in their deck. Wow, okay. They put it on Carnosaur, but just pitch the Carnosaur to kill the Investigator to get in. Get in and hit a Flesh Scourger and take 7. Yeah, that is the risk. That is the, oh, thank goodness. I don't know if we can beat double Flesh Scourger, but we can Wrath the board. We can collect a little evidence here and probably get rid of, I guess, Carnosaurs. The Lilianas are pretty good at dealing with one thing. So if our opponent's plan is going to be to like cast Flesh Scourgers, ooh, another Cruel Claw, Liliana should be able to take care of that. All right, that looks doable. We might be able to I might be able to get back into this actually. So if they're just gonna try to play Flesh Scourgers, we're kind of good because Liliana can clean it up. There's a Cruel Claw, and there's a Flesh Scourger. Black mana, black mana. The most useless of cut downs. So yeah, this is awkward. So we can play the Bandit's Talent, get rid of the Flesh Scourger. Then we can Liliana take down. They probably sack the Flesh Scourger, and it's going to come down to a Cruel Claw flip. All right, well, I mean, we saw our opponent's decks. There's a lot of bats and other jank in their deck. Here we go. It's going to come down to a literal coin flip. If they whiff here, we win. We almost assuredly win this game. If they hit a bomb here, they almost assuredly win this game. It all comes down to this. Opponent attacks. Gets in with the infamous. This is Bloomburrow at its finest. Opponent hits us. Seriously? They hit a Flesh Scourger? There was only 2. That is their biggest thing in their deck. And there was only 2 left in their deck. Oh, the odds of a dead removal spell. Oh, yeah, now we're dead, right? We can Liliana take down, but they set Cruel Claw. We'd had a Flesh Scourger. It has Menace, so we can't chump block it. Wow. That looks pretty good. We got the Bandit's Talent, which is nice. That is kind of our key piece. And a Wrath and a Lily. Well, let's see what our opponent's doing. Opponent. Simic, eh? Storm Chaser's Talent. All right, doing some ottering by the looks. I don't know if otters are a good or bad matchup. I think out of all of Early Access Day, I feel like otters is one of the deck I've seen the most. I'm still not 100% sure how good it is. I'm still kind of on the fence. My experience, we played it a little bit during our Early Access Day stream, and my experience was it was kind of okay, but it didn't feel like mice and rabbits, and even frogs were the sleeper tribe, but mice and rabbits felt especially strong. Otters, I was kind of like, I don't think they're like birds bad, but they also don't feel like busted or anything. Opponent does some plotting. Well, Bandit's talent. I guess that is kind of the risk of killing the otter, that our opponent can plot something even more devastating. So far Bandit's talent is almost exclusively discard 1. I don't think we've gotten a discard 2 out of it yet. So it's essentially discard 1 non-land. All right, here comes the slick shot. How dead are we? I mean, we have a Lily, so as long as they can't make another body, they do make another body. I mean, we also have a Wrath, so if we cannot die, bound it. Ooh, Storm Chaser's talent. Again, trigger. So we're taking 5? That's not that much. Monstrous Rage. So we're taking 10? That's half of our life total. Well, and we also, opponent has a buffer. So I think we have to just run out this Hostile Investigator. Get rid of our opponent's last card. Hope that they don't draw anything great this turn. And then we can Wrath. They can start getting spells back. I don't know if Storm Chaser's talent will ever get to the 3rd level, but the 2nd level 4 mana is not efficient, but wow, they didn't level it up. They just passed. Does our opponent think they can do that at instant speed? You can definitely not level up classes at instant speed. All right, that might be a very deadly punt for our opponent, because now, so if they had gotten something back, we'd have to choose between discard and dealing with the board. Now, though, it's kind of a free roll, right? We get to smack in with the Hostile Investigator. Down to 11. Sweep the board. No evidence to collect. Opponent drops to 9. Opponent's actually down to 9, too, because of their pain lands. And now our talent. All right, Storm Chaser's talent. Getting back. Doesn't really matter, because we're going to make you discard it anyway. Gets back the Divination. Ooh. Actually, Rankle's Prank, is that better? Is it too risky? Let's do it the safer way. Liliana, let's crack the clue for max information advantage. It's a swamp. We'll take up Lily. Get rid of the card draw. Keep our opponent empty-handed. Play the land. Opponent drops to 7. Nope. Storm Chaser's talent. Okay. And then level up Storm Chaser's talent. Get back the card draw spell so we can make you discard it again. They drew all 4 of them somehow. Found it. Levels it up. Let's try this again. Let's try it again, opponent. Let's run it back. Gets back the Divination. I guess we Bandit's talent, make you discard. So that gets rid of the card draw again. Now we can take down Lily to get rid of the Otter. And then we can level up. And somehow our opponent has to like kill us this turn. So we hit our opponent to 5. They're at a virtual 1. That also means they can't use their pain lands for colored mana without dying. And they have a lot of pain lands. Opponent, sleight of hand. Into Destruction. Annihilate. Wow, opponent just passes. Okay. Let's take up Lily. I mean, we just win right now, right? In theory, with the Rankle's Prank. Or we win with Bandits. Okay, opponent's gonna cast the shock with the pain land and go out on their own terms, and that went pretty well. I'm starting to think that standard 8-rag might be a real deck. I don't want to say did we break it on early access day, but did we break it? Doing a bit of discarding in standard. Well, hopefully our opponents are doing a bit of discarding in standard. We're not hoping to discard. Our opponents, on the other hand, we're hoping they discard everything. Well, swamp and go. Let's see what our opponent's up to. This hand, we got our Bandit's talent, so we're relatively happy. Sometimes that's all it takes. Opponent. Ooh, Paw Patch Recruiter. Paw. I mean, we have Deadly Cover-Up, and we have Rankle's Prank, so we do have plenty of removal should we live long enough. Opponent, would you like to discard a card? Never seen 2 cards with Bandit's talent. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, it'll probably happen like 5% of the time, but it's pretty much discard 1. Although it is nice that your opponent can't just pitch an extra land. It does have some upside to it. It's like discard 1.5 or something. Ooh, Kelene. So our opponent's not rabbits. They're just generic Selesnya? Certainly. And Paw Patch Recruit. Number 2. Paw. Ooh, cut down's good. I mean, we just want to stabilize till we get to the Wraths, pretty much. Let's play the Foundry, and yeah, I guess we start leveling up. Bandit's talent's not really ready to start doing things yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Bandit. I'm gonna crack the Fabled Passage. Sure. So hopefully they don't have like hop to it or something. It would be nice if this Rankle's Prank was a board reset next turn. Attacks. I think we just take the 4. Plus, if we cut down, they put counters on things. Botanical Brawler. Okay, so we'll kill a rabbit. That rascally rabbit. All right, so bunny one down. Opponent gets a botanical. So it's a counters deck. All right, that makes sense. Let's play swamp. The question is, do we discard? We definitely, yeah, let's just make our opponent sack. I think we'll wait on the discard mode. I don't really want to discard Painful Quandary or Deadly Cover-Up, so I think we're best off just chilling Innkeeper's Talent. Well, let's get down Painful Quandary. Honorary rack Painful Quandary. If you cast a spell, you take 5 or you discard. This is the first deck ever that I have felt like Painful Quandary is actually good and opponent's gonna pass. Now what? We can finish leveling up the Bandit's Talent, although it's not even close to doing anything. But I don't think we're doing anything else, so we might as well. Sooner or later, our opponent will get under 1 card in hand. All right, they're gonna get lost to Painful Quandary. Does a little discarding. Now we get some maps that are not super good for our deck. All right, opponent finally hits land number 3. Thankfully, we just have so much removal. Trostanier. I don't know what our opponent's deck is about, honestly. I think kill Trostani. Let's Liliana. And dig it down.
Enough
Get
with
rid
the
of
mysteries.
Trostani. Things are looking pretty good. Opponent's down to 2 cards in hand. In theory, Liliana's going to help clean it up. Sentinels in the Nameless City. Worst case, Wrinkles Prank will definitely clean it up. And then we get to start drawing with the Bandit's Talent. Opponent has 2 cards in hand. Yeah, let's just Wrinkles Prank. Do we just go all modes? Let's not take the damage. I feel like we're pretty guaranteed to win if we don't take the damage. So kill the creature. Opponent out of cards. Not going to take up Lily. Going to hold on to the Wrath. Opponent down to 12. You need to find, I guess they need a removal spell for the Bandit's Talent. That's probably step 1, but not looking great for Selesnya here. Opponent going to level up their class and pass. We get to start drawing extra cards and take up Lily. Make sure our opponent's empty-handed. All right, there's the Get Lost. Do they just get lost to Lily? No respect for the Bandit's Talent. I think they actually needed to kill the Bandit's Talent there. Well, we're going to put these maps to use. See if we make a super big Mishra's Foundry. Another Bandit's Talent. We'll keep that. Nothing for opponent to discard, but that's fine. That's another one of the upsides of Bandit's Talents, right? It's a discard spell, but it's also good when our opponent's empty-handed. Even better when our opponent's empty-handed. Hit ya. Down to 6. Bandit's Talent. Down to 4. I guess our opponent, really, they kind of had land troubles here. It probably didn't matter what they killed there. They were in a really bad spot, but, well, got them. It is new standard time. We are doing some standard 8-rack, some Bandit's Talent 8-rack, and, opponent, Boros. Cheeky Boros. Oh, boy. All right, I don't know how this goes for us. Let's see how dead we are. Cruel Claw's Ice. Take a peek. Monstrous Rage? So I think we're trying to set up the Wrinkles Prank wipeout, basically. I think that's essentially the goal. Opponent. Now we're probably dead. That is unfortunate. That is, I think, the scariest thing our opponent could have drawn there. Getting in with Double Strike on turn 2 is so much damage. And now it's another body, so Liliana doesn't clean up the board. Yeah, that was a really, oh boy, that might be a game-swinging Manifold Mouse, actually. Now I don't know what to do. We had a really good plan. We might have to still just Liliana tick down. We need to keep our opponent at 2 or less creatures.
I've always hated crowds.
So the Wrinkles Prank can deal with all of them. Opponent, yeah. Marble. And Double Strike, and probably kills Liliana. I mean, maybe they go face. I hope they go face. All right, opponent hits Liliana, that's fine. Well, now we can Wrinkles Prank. I think that's what we gotta do. Wrinkles Prank, each opponent sacks 2 creatures. I don't think we make them discard, because we don't care about Witchstalker's Frenzy. We don't actually care about the 4-drop because Liliana can cover it, and we don't really want to discard our 2 Bandit's Talents. It is a little scary that our opponent has multiple ways to give creatures haste. That is a way that we could end up dying. But outside of that, I feel like we're suddenly in a good spot, even after that Manifold Mouse gets you. And then Swamp, make you discard. Gonna pitch a Witchstalker's Frenzy. Double Bandit's talent gets very, very brutal. little cheeky house mouse, which is actually fine. Like, our opponent just needs to draw bodies because they have the equipment that gives haste and they have the land that gives haste. So our opponent will take literally any body at this point and just kind of try to ball lightning them in at us. All right, Rockfall Village, pumps it. These lilies have soaked up a lot of damage. Our opponent just having to kill them has actually made them very worth it. I think it's gained us like 8 life at least this game. Assuming, we'll see where this cheeky house mouse goes. If history holds, our opponent's gonna smack the lily because that's what they've done every other time. Yep, all right, so lily down, sure, that's fine. We draw a hostile investigator, which, not gonna make a token, but it can block a 1-drop. It trades with the cheeky house mouse, our hostile investigator. What a world. That is one of the weird things about Bloomburrow. The scale is very strange, right? I know when I cheeky house mouse isn't actually from Bloomburrow, but it is kind of funny to see like how these presumably small animal creatures line up with non-Bloomburrow, like monsters and humans and so forth. Like the fact that this mouse is as big as hostile investigator is just weird. It's gotta, I guess it just works on its own scale. Well, Bandit's talent. Once we get fully leveled up, the fact that we hit our opponent for 2 every turn and draw an extra card X, ooh, that would have been really good if it wasn't for the fact that we're holding on to a deadly cover-up. But opponent makes an offspring, grows the dorks, gets in with haste, hits us to 12. We get to draw an extra card. Another deadly cover-up is kind of huge. Well, deadly cover-up. Might as well collect evidence. I don't even know what we're exiling. I don't even know if it matters what we exile, but we might as well get rid of... is it just Manifold Mouse? The double strike really scares me. They have so much mana that, like, double strike the Manifold Mouse, haste it up. We could end up just dying randomly. I think that's... The haste on the battlefield is the big concern here. Just our opponent's ability to ball lightning and everything is a worry. Opponent goes to 14. How about a... Ooh, all right, opponent. It is a creature land. If our opponent's going to draw land, that's probably the one they want to draw. Although, I think they'd rather just not draw land. Opponent passes. We go for the throat. Okay, that's really good. That probably kind of puts an end to any of our worries. Bandit's talent. Make you discard. Except you got no cards. But we still get to level up. Now our opponent's taking 4 a turn. And we have the Painful Quandary. So I think this is just over. If our opponent does not scoop from us Doomblading this creature land or go for the throating the creature land, I'm pretty sure Painful Quandary is actually just the lock here. Opponent land. Gonna fire up the creature land. And I think that does it. And discard has felt really good. We're even beating the aggro decks. Opponent. Yeah. Gonna equip. We will go for the throat. The power of drawing 2 or 3 cards a turn. Gonna hit the removal eventually. And now we just slam the Painful Quandary, and it's not even really a quandary at this point. It just means you lose the game. When you're empty-handed, there's no choice. That's what makes it good in this deck, right? Normally it's bad because it's a Punisher card and your opponent chooses the most beneficial option. When you're empty-handed, there is no choice. It's just like you can't cast spells or you take 5. Both of those are great for us. So I think that's why Painful Quandary is actually a sneaky all-star in our deck when typically it is kind of unplayable. An opponent realizes the Painful Quandary. Ooh, this hand looks reasonable. I can get behind this hand. No rack, no Bandit's talent, but Hopeless Nightmare, make you discard. Liliana, make you discard. Hostile Investigator, make you discard. Opponent, Eternal Wanderer, interesting. So some sort of control deck, presumably. I feel like control's probably a good matchup for our deck. Wow, another Eternal Wanderer milled. Well, Liliana, take it up, make a discard.
A fight?
We will pitch a deadly cover-up, which, if our opponent's a control deck, probably not going to do much of anything. Opponent discards a land. Okay, they have an answer to the Lily. Little do they know, there's another Lily lurking.
That's my cue to leave.
But instead, we drew the land, so we'll Hostile Investigator. Get down a body, start making clues. If we draw another land next turn, we can Lily plus crack the clue. Opponent discards an Ossification. Discard is kind of brutal, isn't it? It is kind of brutal that you have this game plan and you see these cards that you were excited to cast and Hostile Investigator and Bandit Sail just like, nope. Ooh. Invasion New Phyrexia to make a couple knights. Well, we do want to make sure that doesn't flip, because that Teferi side does draw cards, which means we kind of want to make sure we can land for a Wrath. I think that's our best bet. If we just guarantee this doesn't flip, we should be fine. So let's play the Bandit's Tail and make our opponent discard, crack the clue, not a land, stay on defense. I mean, hopefully they shouldn't be able to flip it this turn, right? Ooh, wait. Can they flip it this turn? Patchwork Banner. Can pump the knights. So if they can kill the hostile investigator, they get to flip it. That would actually be kind of scary. Thinking. Attacking. Well, we got to trade with the investigator because we can't let that flip. Opponent passes. Well, play the swamp. No gift. No gift. We're just going to get rid of the laydown arms and play the Lily. Now we should be pretty good. So Lily, get rid of the last knight, and we still have a Wrath left over in hand.
Off you go.
Wow, another invasion. Good thing we have the Wrath left over in hand, or that actually would have been really bad for us. I mean, we're gonna blow it up. I guess we will collect some evidence and extract something. I don't even know what I guess Eternal Wanderer? I don't know how many they're playing. Are they actually playing wow, they're playing a full playset. Okay, well, that worked out. Frontier Seeker. This is a interesting build of blue-white. It's a Portent deck, I see. They're trying to play a bunch of different card types for Portent. Interesting. Yeah, let's tick up. We want Lily high enough that we can tick down to Edict if we need to. Well, plus we're just going to keep drawing Wrinkle Springs anyway. Easy mode. Well, we will level up our Bandit's talent finally, and level up our Bandit's talent. And now we'll let Liliana chill. Pound it down to 60. The talent damage, the rack damage is a coming. Biza is probably one of our opponent's better draws, although, I mean, even that, right? It's a 4-mana 4/5 that redraws. Even that's a fine card. Ooh, that is Painful Quandary. This has been the greatest day in Painful Quandary's life. This is it. This is finally Painful Quandary after sitting in Vault Binders for the last 15 years. Finally. Finally, like, I'm here, guys. I can do it. I'm having so much fun. Found it. Draws a card. If they cast it, they got to take 5 to the Painful Quandary. If they don't cast it, we're going to make them discard it with our Liliana. Actually, no, we don't have Liliana anymore, but with our Hostile Investigator. How about that? I mean, our deck is just all discard. Ossification down. And I think this is, like, pretty much just over. Like, I feel like at this point, we have essentially locked our opponent out of the ability to play Magic. Found it, Plains. Gonna pass. We'll crack a clue. It's a swamp. Draw a card. Draw a card. I mean, we could do the Cruel Claw Ice Trick, but I don't even know if we need to. I think we might as well just pass. Like, I don't know how we lose from here. Opponent down to 10, and it's another land, and opponent passes and scoops it up, and standard 8 rack. It might just be real. It feels surprisingly good. So what do we learn this week about standard 8 rack? And I gotta say, the deck felt really good. So obviously, early access day, our last early access day video, so I don't put a ton of weight into the record, but we were winning like 65% of the time with the deck. Like, it actually felt very, very solid. And this is one of those decks that actually seems pretty decent across the board. Like, against aggro, we get a bunch of good removal, we get some sweepers. Against control, we have all this discard. Liliana's really good at pressuring control decks. Against mid-range, we just make them discard all their expensive 4 and 5 drops, and they don't get to do anything with them. So it feels like a deck that's actually oddly competitive pretty much across the gamut of archetypes. It turns out, if you just make your opponent discard all their good cards, it's really hard for them to win. And we see that in Modern with like the scam decks, right? It doesn't really matter what you're doing. If I'm just going to make you discard it anyway, your plan isn't really relevant to our game of Magic. So I will say the new cards in this deck are absurd. Bandit's talent is so incredibly good. It really is, even better than I expected. I thought this would be a really good 8-rack style piece, but after playing with it, it's even better than that. Like, the discard mode's fine, it levels up quickly, and then that last mode is really, really strong. That gives us extra cards each turn, which not only lets us just fight through all of our discard. If there's a downside to playing a discard deck, it's that once our opponent runs out of cards, our cards kind of stop doing anything, but this deck doesn't really work that way. We have Bandit's talent, which once it's leveled up is drawing us extra cards, so we can just fight through drawing extra dead discard spells. And more importantly, most of our discard spells are actually dead cards, even once our opponent's empty-handed. Like Hopeless Nightmare, it deals 2 damage. Not exciting, but it's still something. Cruel Claw's Ice, so we can do the gift trick to maybe steal the top card of our opponent's deck. Rankles Break Liliana, their removal and burn spells, along with being discard. Hostile Investigator, not exciting if our opponent's empty-handed, but it's still a 4/3 body, so we don't really have any truly dead discard effects where once our opponent runs out of cards, we're just like super sad to draw Thoughtseize or whatever, because our discard all does other things as well. So I gotta say, I actually think discard might be real in Standard. I'm sure there could still be some tuning in the deck, the exact right builds. Maybe you go into another color, you could be like Orzhov or something if you wanted to. So there's a lot of possibilities with this deck, but I think thanks to Bandit's talent and the other good discard effects that we have, like Hostile Investigator, Cruel Claw's Ice, Hopeless Nightmare, Liliana, I think we might actually really truly have a good discard deck in Standard, which a lot of people are probably going to hate because people don't like discarding cards, but I am super excited for. So that is Standard 8-rack. That's been our deck for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Looking for even more magic? Well, check out the video where we found out what the best ever modern deck was, Nadu or Hogak. Or maybe this week's Against the Odds, where we did some insidious otter storming in Bloomburrow Standard.